right, back on Rebel headquarters. Let's do it. Let's give you the next guest. Dan Cannon is running in Indiana's 9th district. He's a Just Democrat. He's been called one of the most fascinating midterm House candidates in the country. Whoa. He's running in a district that voted for Trump by 27 points. Dan Cannon, welcome to Rebel headquarters.
Hi, Jake. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Dan, I want to talk to you about your plan to defeat someone who is the overwhelming favorite in this race. But before we get to that, you're a music teacher and then you're a civil rights lawyer. What was your role in the Supreme Court case Obergefell versus Hodges that gave us equal marriage in the country?
Yeah, so I was involved at the sort of ground floor level in those cases all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. So we filed the first marriage equality case in Indiana and the first case in Kentucky that was sort of touted as being the major decision, like the first decision in the South. It was one of the early opinions that came down that sort of gave the rest of the country permission to, to say this is the green light on marriage equality. That case eventually merged with cases from Ohio and Tennessee and Michigan and went up to the United States Supreme Court, and it's what we now know as Obergefell.
So I went nuts at that on that day when that decision was handed down, because it really was historic. I said this is one of the historic moments that people will look back on a long time from now, and we got to live it. But you got to live it more than others. So I'm curious, how many lawyers worked on that case overall? And did you, when you say you brought all the way to the Supreme Court, what was your role by the time it got to the Supreme Court?
So I was lead counsel for the Kentucky plaintiffs all the way up. So I was there front and center watching everything go on at the Supreme Court, and it still is kind of a surreal experience, as you can imagine, looking back on it. But we didn't have much time to celebrate because then I jumped right into the Kim Davis litigation, if you know about that, that went on over in Eastern Kentucky right afterwards, because we had a bunch of clerks really all over the country that refused to issue marriage licenses, and so we had to take on that legal battle, and that's what we did. And that one blew up a lot bigger than we expected it to.
All right, I'm declaring it then. Dan Cannon, civil rights hero. It's true. It's true. So now we're going to
ask how many lawyers worked on that case, and I will tell you, I hate to interrupt you, but I mean, it was, over the years, over the decades, I mean, thousands, right? It was only 30 or 40 of us that were counsel of record in various states by the end of the whole thing. But I mean, that was the result of decades of work by activists, and we just happened to be there to put the last nail in the coffin. So
no, I hear you. I hear you. And there was a lot.
I'm a big fan of hero, but
yeah,
there are a lot of heroes.
No question. And Martin Luther King was not the only person that walked across that bridge in Selma, Alabama. But you were there, brother. You were there. That's a hero in my books. So now your incumbent is Trey Hollingsworth. He's a Republican. Trump won the district by 27 points. How in the world are you going to beat him?
Well, by knocking on doors and by making lots of phone calls and making lots of face-to-face contacts and essentially being a real person that cares about solving real problems within my district. So, Trump won the district by 27 points, but actually our Democratic candidate for Congress in 2016 did 14 points better than Hillary. Because she was out there and engaged in that kind of work. I mean, in a normal year, that would have been enough to win, right? She was out there and engaged in the work of talking to the people and trying to actually connect with people. And over the last over the term of his that he's been in Congress, Representative Hollingsworth has shown, like a lot of other Congress people, this stunning lack of ability to connect with real people who are experiencing real problems. And as your last guest was talking about, there's this massive problem of campaign finance that tends to lead to multimillionaires that come from multi-generational wealth, like Representative Hollingsworth, getting into office. And then when rich guys get into office like that, they have a tendency to just solve rich guy problems if they don't make an effort to actually figure out what real people are suffering through on a day-to-day basis in the district. And I've been through that. I've been poor in Indiana. I was raised by single mom, and I dropped out of high school and I got my GED, and I put myself through college, and I put myself through law school, and I've represented lots of people that have been addicts and that have been very poor and victims of police violence and victims of the kind of stuff that go on a day-to-day basis in Indiana. And there's just no way that somebody like Hollingsworth can relate to that, and he's not trying. And I think if we demonstrate to people that and we're seeing it work now. I mean, I think if we demonstrate to people that we're willing to get out and get our hands dirty and talk to people about what they're really going through and work with them on solutions that we can come up with right here and take back to Washington, people are going to respond to that. They've always responded to that in Indiana. And I don't think that 2018 is going to be any different. It's just that we have invested a lot at this point in time into making voter contact and showing people that we care about them.
Yeah. Now, poor Hollingsworth's only got $60 million, so I don't know if you're being fair to him. But look, it's okay. Of course, rich people can be great progressives and can help people and can understand people's plight too. But it doesn't appear that Hollingsworth's making much of an effort. And on the other hand, you're in a circle of folks where you're going to get a different perspective than the rich donors that he talks to. I saw that you're doing #DineWithDan, making some sort of democracy chili. Now, to be fair to Hollingsworth, you're also charging for that, all the way up to $25 to eat with you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So last I heard that Hollingsworth was not willing to meet with any constituents unless they, were paying $2,500 a plate. I think that it's possible for people who are wealthy, obviously, to go out and make the effort to try to understand what regular folks are going through. But I don't think that it's easy. If you've got somebody that's a multimillionaire that comes from multi-generational wealth, and on top of that has never lived in Indiana before, I don't think he's ever set foot in Indiana before about 2015. And then for somebody like that to come in, essentially to buy out a Republican primary and ride the Trump coattails to victory, which is a cover that he's not going to have in 2018. I think that exposes a major flaw in our system, and I think the way that we exploit that flaw is by going out and connecting and doing the stuff that Hollingsworth cannot do, which is he can outspend us for sure, but he cannot connect with people. He cannot understand what people are going through, and he's made no effort to do that. Like I said, this is a big problem in Congress overall, where you've got rich people going to, getting elected into office and then doing nothing but solving rich people problems. Go ahead. Yeah,
sorry. I want to ask you before we're out of time a couple more of your policies, but I also want to give out the links if you want to help Dan. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll obviously find those in the description box. Just click on them to donate or to volunteer. There's apparently a Cranky Cannon t-shirt as well. I like that. I'm big on t-shirts. CanonForIndiana.com if you're watching live. And links are also down below on Facebook in the comments section. So if you're gonna win on small donors, you need those small donors and you need those volunteers to get out there and to do the door knocking that Dan's talking about. Okay, so Dan, you're for getting money out of politics. You're a Just Democrat. That means you don't take corporate PAC money. You're for universal health care. I see that. I always try to find the things that set you out from a little bit from the other candidates. You've got on your to-do list here that you are against exorbitant interest fees. So what can you do about that in Congress?
Yes, sir. Well, I think we can establish a nationwide usury rate, which, by the way, is exactly the opposite of what legislators are trying to do here in Indiana. We just had a vote at the state legislature where they've voted to allow payday lenders to go up to something like 200% interest on payday loans, and essentially return to a state of where you've got a lender that owns a borrower, right? And so they've got them trapped in a loan that they can never pay back ever. We should be going the opposite direction from that. We should be establishing nationwide usury laws. I think that there is no reason why a credit card interest rate or something like that should ever be over 15%. It's just more ways for then this has been the GOP agenda, as you well know. It's another way for rich folks to make money off the backs of the working class, and we can shut that down with legislation. We just have to have the political willingness to do it.
So look, in the business world, you know that interest rates that high are unsustainable. Donald Trump bankrupted himself even while running a casino, which seemed impossible, because he got junk bonds that were basically at a 14% interest rate. So that'll bankrupt even a casino. So will it bankrupt the average American? Absolutely. And some of these rates are in the hundreds, sometimes thousands of percent. It's preposterous. So look, and I breeze past the money in politics and the Medicare for all, because a lot of your colleagues are in favor of that are running these upstart challenges. But we shouldn't. Imagine, just Democrats, for example, have 51 candidates. Imagine if we had overnight 51 people in Congress that were for Medicare for all. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah. So, but
that's what we're hoping for in 2019.
Yeah, that's right, because that's change. Everything else is okay, politics, etc. But what matters is the change in people's lives. So, and if you get those folks into Congress, they can actually push for Medicare for all. They could push for a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics and make that difference in your life. But before I let you go, I know we're past time here, but Dan, one more thing. You're also going after one of the organizers of the Charlottesville hate rally, Matthew Heimbach. How are you doing that?
Yeah, so if you'll remember, those of your viewers that watch the 24-hour news may have seen a video of a rally, a campaign rally in 2016, where Donald Trump invited a seething mob of white supremacists to attack my black client, who was there to peacefully protest. And she walked up to the edge of the stage and held up a picture, didn't say a word, but held up a picture of Donald Trump's head on a pig's body. And he invited some of the white supremacists that he surely knew were on the ground at that period of time, by that point in the campaign, and one of them happened to be Mr. Heimbach. And I don't like to amplify his name or his message in any way, but they went after her and assaulted her on the floor of that convention center, and we sued him. And we sued him and some other white supremacists, and the Trump campaign and Donald Trump himself. And so that case is currently sort of wending its way through the appellate courts. We did manage to get the first meaningful opinion out of a federal court since the 1960s on what incitement really is, because the judge in the lower court said, yeah, he actually incited violence here, and he's not protected by the First Amendment, and the First Amendment does in fact have boundaries, and we think that's the right outcome.
All right, I got your campaign slogan. Dan, a cannon for justice.
There you go. There you go. It's my whole law practice too,
All right, sounds good. All right, Dan Cannon, thank you for joining us, and thank you for fighting for progressives, no matter what the odds are, particularly in Indiana there. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I like our odds.
And I like that spirit.